Hello and welcome to the Pharma Forum podcast. I'm your host, Jonah Comstock. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated a change that was already underway with regards to the digitization of pharma marketing and the increasing ubiquity of omnichannel. It's a trend that has only been supercharged by the recent advances in artificial intelligence. But how is the shift to digital playing out on the ground? In today's episode, sponsored by Veeva, I'll be stepping back and letting our partners at Veeva, Victoria Sarah Gitterman, European Customer Experience Lead, and Sebastian Noel, Veeva's Director of Multichannel Strategy, moderate a discussion with two executives in the trenches of this change, Andy Eekhout, Global Head of CRM and Digital Solutions at Advanced Pharma, and Mokhtar Al-Sayed, Head of Global Go-to-Market Commercial Transformation at Sanofi. So sit back and enjoy the discussion, and then you can follow the link in the description to a new white paper from Veeva that will go in-depth on some of the same topics.
Great. So we'll do a very quick introduction to myself. Victoria here. I'm part of the business consulting team based out of Europe. And my focus has been over the last couple of years in particular around customer experience and how we enable that for our field teams and for our commercial customers. And today, thankfully, I have a few colleagues with me to discuss this very interesting topic that I think there's 10 million different ways to cut it. And keen to get your thoughts and perspective on how this new digital era is being deployed among our customers and how we can make that a success for everyone. But before I do that, maybe to my colleague Seb, quick introduction from you.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Victoria. I'm Sebastian. I'm the Veeva Multichannel Strategy Lead based in Europe. And basically, I work with all digital channels that we have in the Veeva CRM. And I'm, of course, speaking a lot with all our customers, all the pharma companies in the industry to understand where we're going with the new trends around digital channels. I've been working in this space for quite many years now, starting with virtual meetings or what we used to call remote detailing many years ago. And of course, today we are in many other discussions to really understand how we can make the most of all these digital channels and make sure that we do the best with the whole industry to support healthcare professionals.
And thankfully, we're not alone, Seb, and we have a perspective from actually customers of ours that are going through that journey themselves. So maybe Mokhtar, briefly about you.
Hello, Vic. Hello, Sebastian. Thank you for having me in this recording. So my name is Mokhtar Al-Sayed. I'm working in Sanofi for the last 18 years with different experience on commercial marketing and strategy planning. And recently I'm working for Salesforce transformation on the global level for vaccine business unit. So thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure, Mokhtar. Thank you.
And Andy, over to you. Quick introduction.
Of course. So I'm Andy Eekhout from Belgium, working more than 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry. Last 2 years, I joined the Advanced Pharma team, and I'm the global head of CRM and digital solutions. I have a main commercial background, but to be in this role now for the last 2 years is more than ever very interesting. I think due to COVID and post-COVID, we've entered a new era. So it's super exciting to be in this role. And I think with my commercial experience, it's good to be on this side. And together with this company that is, in a digital transformation, is building that digital strategy. So interesting.
Great. We can start with a warm-up conversation, right? And you've been in this industry for quite some time. And particularly, I guess, the last 3 years were quite some changes into how we think about engaging with the physician, how we think about building a relationship. But just curious, even just like the last year or the last 6 months, putting COVID aside, I think everyone is tired of speaking of COVID. But putting the last 6 months more as the focus, have you seen anything in particular, any like shift in how we think about digital? Any thoughts from you guys on how that impacts the way you go to market?
I can maybe start here. I think, in all honesty, we are still searching what is the best approach. And if I listen to our customers, also they are still searching what is now the best approach. I think they're engaging with their patients again in face to face, which is a good thing for them. But how they interact with pharmaceutical industry, it depends. It really depends the specialty, and also they are now looking at what is the best option out there. So it's a little bit in the middle there for the moment. Yeah.
And Mukhtar, for you?
I'm totally aligned with you, Andy, and I could add for this point that we already reported for the physician that they start to look to more specialty. For example, for specialty brand, even for more in-depth scientific information. And if I focus on the vaccine therapeutic area, for example, they would like to focus more on the innovation, real or neglected infectious disease, which it was not the case before. So we reported that the direction for the discussion with the physician now is moving more to have more specialty for the vaccination and also for the discussion for innovation rather than for the traditional vaccines. And I think it might be applied also for other therapeutic area, not only for vaccine.
And I mean, correct me if you guys feel differently, but at least the sort of conversations I had with customers in the past were a lot more around the value that digital can bring. And it was a lot like, this is worth doing. It's a nice complement to your face-to-face, but it was still seen as a separate thing you would do on top, a nice to have. But a lot of the conversations I had over the past year were a lot more like, how do we get this done? Like, what does it mean? How do we make this a reality? What are the implications? And how do we get the organizations ready? Do you guys feel the same? Like, I always get different reactions. Is it the organizations that are not ready, the reps are not ready, the physicians were not ready? Just keen to get your thoughts on whether you think things changed over the last year or what clicked and is now different.
Yeah, what I saw actually after the COVID, the acceptance of the physician start to increase, especially for digital engagement in general. So either it's rep driven or marketing and medical driven or HEQ driven. And the point here is about what is beyond this engagement. And we see this differentiation. So the physician, they would like to keep the face-to-face, of course, in-person interaction with the sales force. And they would like to have also and to increase the digital interaction, but for a specific type of brand, a specific type of information. So, and this is what we differentiate between the face-to-face and digital interaction. So, and for example, HCPs, they would like to have emails and might be a remote meeting or webinar for the information related to the existing brands. So it might be any update about guidelines or about recommendation. However, if there is a new information about launch or something more innovative, they prefer to have it in person. So, and this balance between the in-person interaction, face-to-face interaction, and the digital interaction, I think it's one of the key topics that we should focus from both sides, from the HCPs and also from the pharma company.
Yeah, and from our perspective, I agree with Mokhtar. However, it's also important to see the differences per specialty and to the differences per country, because we see a huge difference. So you cannot overgeneralize things. So an analysis per country or per specialty is really necessary to do the right thing now. And honestly, you could do market research, or if you have your network, you can just ask your physicians, and that's even better because there's a lot of assumptions out there now. And I think if you have a network with your customers, it's better now to ask them what is the preferred channel, and what are the different ways of engaging with the physician now. So this is the direction we are trying to go to today. There was one caveat, if I may say. We are faced with a few launches now in domains which are pretty unknown for us. So that's the most challenging today now. What is the best approach there? Obviously, you want to visit physicians for the first time face to face to ask all of these things. But if access is low, how do you handle that? So that's currently a challenge.
There's one question I wanted to ask you also. You mentioned, and I think we all see that face to face is back for sure. That's a reality. At the same time, you saw also, we shared with you guys, Mokhtar and Andy, the Viva Pulse data around HCP access that is way more challenging than before. Is it something you see also on your side with the field teams, with the markets, trying to understand the reality behind some of the stats that we see here?
Yeah, so we went to the Pulse results as a global team, but we also share them with the countries. And I just mentioned there are some special differences across countries, but also if you deep dive into some specialities, and it's really reflecting reality. So based on these results, you obviously need to kind of make an action plan. What are you going to do with it? I mean, reports are nice, but what are the insights and what are the actions going out of that? So no, we definitely looked at those and
Okay, so you see a difference, right? And maybe Mokhtar, you want to add, but pre-COVID and now you see a difference with HCP access, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, of course there is a difference before and after. The point that this difference is variable from one market to another, according to the structure of the market dynamics, and let's say the behavior of the physician as well. So some physicians, they prefer in-person interaction according to the culture, according to their background, rather other markets. And we should consider that. But in general, yes, still the accessibility is lower than before, and we should consider that, and we should act on to have the plan and adapt our way of engagement accordingly. However, we should also have a different model according to the markets and according to the specialty or the physician, as mentioned by Andy. So we believe that it will not be one model that will fit with all markets and all specialties.
Right, yeah.
And you're touching on a very interesting topic for me, and it's a bit controversial, so bear with me. But it seems like both your organizations are giving freedom to the rep to choose what the best channel mix should be. Do you think that that's the right thing? Because obviously we see a lot of the times that the reps kind of choose the channel mix that they themselves are more comfortable with, and not necessarily what the HCPs want. So just curious about Sanofi's and advanced perspective. Do you trust the reps in choosing the right channel mix, or any ways to correct or inform that with customer preferences?
Yeah, it's a good point. And as you mentioned, it's a big topic to discuss. The point that we have a process to define what is the accurate channel mix. With a global guidance on country level, there is different element that should be reviewed in order to define what is the omnichannel cycle plan, for example, and the different frequency and channel that will be activated according to the brand strategy, according also to the engagement or customer activation strategy. And the point that we put frame based on the segment or persona for different physician, and based on their adoption ladder. And based on that, there is a step for the sales team, sales manager and the sales rep to modify or to optimize the channel mix or the omnichannel cycle plan. And at that stage, they might have to optimize or change a bit within a specific percentage. So they couldn't change it 100%. But what I see that this is a transition period or transition phase. We might move ahead in the future that the rep at the time that will not be as a sales rep, the traditional sales rep, but might be more at the sales rep of the future, or might be at a customer engagement leader. He will be responsible to define the channel mix based on the data that he will have, and also might be featuring the AI, for example, to support him to do that. But for the time being, they optimize a little bit within the frame in order, based on their information and based on their interaction with the physician.
Yeah, and if I may, it was a very controversial question, and My short answer is more than ever, we put the CAM or the sales rep in the driver's seat. Obviously, with a lot of guidance, a lot of help, first from the global team to put all the channels in place so they can do their proper work and to come with the right messages and the right content. Obviously, then locally at the country level, they need to have that conversation and that decision which channels are the most priorities per country. But then obviously you need to give the freedom and the responsibility to the sales rep, of course. There are many ways to help them. And obviously a sales leader can play an important role to challenge them and to help them, but you need to give him trust. But there is also another but. That means that sales rep as such need to have other capabilities and another skill set maybe as before. And that's another topic where we can also dive into.
It's a critical one, right? Because whether it's to your point, Mokhtar, of like making them more efficient, so you reach, you build a relationship quicker with, like, obviously for vaccines, you have a much bigger base of physicians to reach out to versus, and for advanced in rare diseases, you obviously have way less amount of doctors to go and target. And you kind of want more flexibility for reps to build that relationship. It's slightly different priorities, right? But maybe that's a good follow-up question. What are your organizations doing to make the rep more comfortable with the concept of omnichannel and make it feel like this is a tool that is empowering them and not necessarily feeling like a threat or here, yet another thing I need to do on top of everything else? What are things that worked or you guys are currently doing that you feel have helped the rep in this journey?
Yeah. So first of all, building the customer journey is an important one. Having adoption letters, I know Mokhtar already alluded to that as well, in place is super important. To train them on all the technical skills they need to have, but then also on the soft skills. And don't forget that. I mean, there are a lot of digital and virtual engagements today. We need to train them how to have more gravitas during these kinds of conversations compared to what they did before face to face. So we need to train them. So I think it's all about giving them guidance and training more than ever.
It's interesting listening to both of you, Andy and Mokhtar. I have the feeling that you're saying, okay, we need to have the sales teams, the field teams in the driver's seat. Which I think is right also. I agree with you because they need to be accountable, right, of the whole strategy with healthcare professionals. But at the same time, you're saying, hey, we give a lot of guidance. We want to make sure we empower them. So I have the feeling that you give this direction that's what we need to do anyway, right? And you need also as field teams to go in this direction. It's not just you do whatever you want to do, because otherwise it would be total chaos. Is it a correct statement? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. I think we have to put a frame, we have to put a model. Might be, as I mentioned, so it will not be one unified model to be applied to the entire organization. Might be different models, but at the end of the day, they should activate the customer within this model. And then the difference, it will be based on their interaction with the customer, and that mentioned by Andy. So we should train them how to optimize the customer engagement journey, customize the customer engagement journey, personalize the interaction for the customer. But of course, there will be a core, for example, core message that should be conveyed. There is core channel that should be activated. And of course, they have the flexibility and the agility to personalize this interaction and customize this interaction.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I think it's really key. And I really wanted to check that with you because I think the worst thing to do probably, and that also I saw that sometimes in some discussions with some pharma companies, the worst thing would be really to just say to the reps, hey, do whatever you want with no framework probably, and then you can't avoid, I think, the total chaos in that case because you have no idea about what's going to happen. But here it's different, right? You give this framework, so they have a direction, and that's way better. I think for the people who are listening, it's really key to understand that it's not just total freedom. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to drive anything.
Yeah, and I would dare to go even beyond, right? Because we're putting a lot of pressure, I think, nowadays on the rep. Like, oh, with the right trainer, if you get the soft skills, and then you have all these different channels, why are you not succeeding? Why is your access not better? Why are you not why are we not seeing the results on rep? So wanted to get your honest thoughts. Like, what are things that your organizations are doing beyond training, just to make sure that omni-channel readiness, that digital engagement is a reality? And just also your honest thoughts, what else could you guys do to beyond training, again, because there's a lot of pressure on the rep to get it all right. What else could your organizations do, or some advice you might have for the listeners on how to get the entire organization ready, not just the rep ready, to deliver on this omni-channel engagement?
It's a great question, and two things popped up in my mind. We talked about training a lot and training on hard skills and soft skills of the sales rep, but there's also the sales leaders, so the people managers of those, that also need to find another way of working and guiding those sales reps. So definitely want to work a lot with the sales leaders. And then another thing, that's the second thing we put in place now. It's not rocket science, but it's a multi-channel cycle plan. When you build that, and you put the sales rep in the driver's seat, you just need to make sure you guide them perfectly during that process. And that comes from global, and that comes from the local support they get to build a multi-cycle plan. And then whenever they are in the cycle, you also need to give them the right tools to analyze the situation and help them analyzing the situation. So also that is important. So my insights is one way of doing that in CRM.
And it's totally aligned as well. And the point that from my side that we should start with the why part, and they should understand why they are doing that. So before to learn about the soft skills or the technical part, they should understand what is the value for themselves. Firstly, how this will improve their competency, their skills, and also this will have a positive impact on their career, in their opportunity in the organization. So all these aspects, I think, should be clarified at the beginning. Engagement with the senior manager on country level, regional level, global level, and their endorsements is a key. And also they should understand the value for their customers. And the sales team, of course, they are focusing on their customers. So when they understand that it's not just activation for a new channel or the multi-channel, but it's more about how to engage in a different way with your customer based on their customer preference, this make a difference. Of course, the tools, the data is very important, but it's not about just to have the tool is available or the data is accessible, but more how they utilize the data. So, and of course, at the beginning of this journey, we work to ask the team to collect a lot of data and to, collect the data and organize the data in the right way and start to analyze this data. But the next step is how to utilize this insight in order to personalize the customer engagement journey, to have something more personalized, more customized according to the customer requirement or the customer needs. And this is what we are working now with the team. And it's a different set of skills for the sales team. They are not, trained before, and it was not in their day-to-day activity. So now they should focus on collecting insight, utilizing this insight, also thinking about how to customize the customer engagement journey, it was not the case before.
Yeah. And I have a question for you, actually, Mokhtar. How do you work today on the why? Because face-to-face is back, right? It's not the same than before with COVID and so on. How do you make sure that you have a solid why today that will really speak internally to your field teams, but also to the healthcare professionals? I think it's something that many pharma companies are struggling with today.
Yeah, it's a good point. So actually, in order to structure the why or what is in for the different stakeholders internally, we should think about the future and what is the vision for the entire organization, and then cascade that down. So we have mature brands that already exist in the organization or established brands that will continue promoting this brand. We have brand that's still in the growing phase and other that in the launching phase. And considering that and conveying, okay, so how the sales team will be able to manage that, and how they will be able to manage the same resources in order to do these new launches and continue growing in the other brand. And with having the solution for the omni-channel and reaching to more customer or reaching more frequently to the same customer using the omni-channel, this will be the only solution in order to be able to optimize the resources and achieve the business objective. So focusing on the vision, focusing on the future, and cascade that down to the different stakeholders and optimize or customize the message according to the stakeholders, so country manager or sales manager or even the medical rep. This facilitates the process in order for them to understand what is the ultimate objective of moving to the omni-channel approach.
And a big learning from some of my customers over the last year were that, unfortunately, like to your point, Mokhtar, explaining the value and the benefit it brings to the physician and to the different people involved in the omnichannel process is key. But I think the big lesson learned was doing it once as a one event was not enough. It's an iterative thing. It's a journey as we get new tools, learn about omnichannel, learn what works, what doesn't. You probably need to keep emphasizing the benefits, the value, the reason why you're doing it and why you're pushing for it now. It's not like a one plan of comms that you send. You probably need to keep insisting on that and how it aligns to the big vision of the pharma company over and over again for it to be successful. Just curious about, in that omni-channel journey, any big lessons learned or anything that you guys, now looking back, you could have done differently or would approach differently?
I think one of the key points for me is continuity of the program. So, and we call it program, it's a development program. It's our change management program as well. So it's not at a training. It's not the classic training that you will gather all the sales team in a classroom and then you train them once and then you feel that, okay, the mission is done.
Yeah, fully agree.
Yeah, in our experience, it's really a journey and it takes years. So we started the journey. Of course, as I mentioned, so we need to have a plan, we need to have vision, endorsement, but of course we need to be consistent. And as we requested from the team to use a different channel with their customer, we should use a different channel with them. So you should diversify the way of development and training. So we develop some classroom training, online training. Might be sometimes we repeat some training because we need to reinforce the message, reinforce the information in a different way, giving them some tool to practice in a safe environment, which for me is a key, because sometimes they understand the knowledge, but because it's something totally new for them, it's not easy to practice, and they might scared or fear to practice that on the field. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a key. So to have this consistent approach from different way or different channel to develop your team across months or years to reach your objective or your ultimate objective.
And our learnings so far are pretty young. We are a young organization starting our digital transformation. But what is important to mention today is it's better to choose fewer channels in the beginning and bring quality in those, in the way you on the message and how you come across with your physicians, and choosing a broad variety of channels and bringing not so much quality in there. So that's a very important lesson. Because a bottleneck at our organization today is content creation, of course. I mean, if you have a lot of channels you wanna put in place, you also need to have a lot of content out there. So, and if you want to bring quality, you need to have good content, and that can often be the bottleneck. So that's for us today maybe the biggest learning.
And have you guys seen anything, like either from other parts of your organization or just other customers, maybe Andy, in your case, like your previous life, anything that you guys thought was really smart or really clever on how you engage with customers digitally, or how an organization gets ready to deliver on this omnichannel vision? Anything that you feel like that was smart we should do or we could do something like that in our respective organizations?
Maybe the cross-functional approach. We often build a kind of a omnichannel, multi-channel plan for the stakeholders from a commercial perspective, but why not having a more holistic view on it and build that from a cross-functional point of view with medical in there, market access, maybe even other stakeholders as business development. And that's even more important. And if you look at the relationship you want to build with your customers on the longer term, I think that's the way moving forward, to look at it with that perspective, the more holistic one.
I might add to that point also is considering the customer. So considering or start from the customer to be the heart of the model. Considering what the customer needs, what are the trends. I think this is the key to develop a model that will be effective for engagement with the customer. Of course, cross-functional engagement is a key. Working with different teams, different function like medical, marketing, sales is very important. But at the same time, considering also having representative from the field, especially with a big organization, not to be something like a global model, but rather than to be a model fitting with different markets according to the market archetype or the market dynamics, rather than to be just a global model that it will not be fitting 100% with the country dynamics and market and customer needs.
Very good. Thank you. I really like your comments here. I think you tick a lot of the boxes to be successful, of course, with this, what I would call this multi-channel to omni-channel models, because I'm really convinced that even today, most of the pharma companies are still in this multi-channel model rather than omni-channel. They tend to go to omni-channel, but it's going to take time, for sure. You mentioned that it's an ongoing process, Mokhtar. I think it's really key. Too many pharma companies, I believe, today are missing this point. I hear too often that this can be done in a one-day training during a seminar at the beginning of the year or whatever. I don't think it will work in that case. You really need to put this in a program, as you mentioned. And as you said, Andy, probably when you start, making sure that you get your foundations right. Don't do too many things at the same time because people will get lost in translation. So I think you're going in the right direction, but at the same time, based on your experience here and the wise words and lessons you're sharing with us, do you still see something missing in your organization? I know you maybe you don't want to share that too much because this could be a kind of weak point, but I would be very interested to understand if you see something missing still or you want to improve.
I don't say it's missing, but I said it should be improved. We defined as area to be improved, which is already mentioned by Andy, the content part. Content is a key for engagement with the customer, especially if we are focused on omnichannel. So we should have multiple content or variable content for different channel and also for different customer according to their persona. And having this content library, for example, it will take time. Need a lot of effort coming from different functions, from franchise, marketing, medical, sales. And even we think about even the sales team at the future will have rule to customize this content or co-develop this content. So we are moving ahead on this journey as well. It will not be a 1 day or 1 month plan, but we are still at the early stage.
Yeah, it's a big piece for sure, the content. Do you see the same, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. Content, as I said before, is still the bottleneck, and especially when you build content, we're still used to build it for face-to-face engagement. But of course, content for digital engagements or to send emails or to have on a website is different. There's a different meaning behind. There's a different way. So that's something to think about. One smart way of doing it is how you can reuse content that you have created for multiple purposes. I think that's a new way of thinking when you develop materials, when you also develop your key messages behind your product. So that's an important one. And to come also back on your questions, Sebastian, and then we are really honest. If you look today at Advance, where are we struggling with? Something I can mention is our website strategy. So for people who don't know, Advance Pharma, we acquired Intercept Pharma last year. And those are two companies that merged together with a completely different mindset and vision on website strategy. So on one side, you had Intercept with per country, 1 or 2 websites on the disease and on the product, while Advance Pharma, we have 1 or 2 websites on our products in the therapeutical area, and that's it. So what we are currently aiming for is to have one landing page for HCPs where they can all find the information easily on our products. But also maybe it can become a platform where we build in a push and pull strategy. So that's something we're looking at. Yeah.
And one element that you both haven't mentioned yet, but I'm curious to get your thoughts is, with the whole digital interaction and obviously enabling and empowering the reps to use more channels, different channels, there's a lot more data that will become available. Have your organizations thought about like the richness or how you can like really get the most out of those new data points that you will have access to, or is that something you haven't thought of just yet? Just curious about like what will be your data strategy out of these multiple omni-channel interactions that you're planning to do?
So actually we are working on it. So we have different projects focusing on how to integrate the different data according to the data source, either it's internal or external data, and working to analyze this data to have it as an valuable insight for the sales team. And also one of the key project that we are working on to leverage the AI in order to build some next best action or next best content based on the data that had been collected. So I couldn't say that we are at very mature stage of that. We are still in the early stage according to the maturity of the data that we have and the maturity of the country. But still, we have a tool. It's a tool could be improved in the coming years and also could be expanded to different market. But we started already to work on the data integration and data analysis.
Yeah, and also we are working on that more than ever. There's a lot of data coming in CRM. We are doing market research. But also, as I just mentioned, our website strategy will be really important, and to have that one landing page for HCPs will be very interesting. But also because also there we want to build a bridge between that website and our CRM. So yeah, we are super keen to know more and to see how we can analyze all of that incoming data in the best possible way.
Linked to that, Vivek, is more about how to visualize this data.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
with a lot of data and a lot of insights, the point is we have to think how to visualize this data to the sales team to be easily to be used for their day-to-day activity and for customer engagement and customer activation. Because we don't expect that the sales team or even the sales rep of the future will be, data analysts. And we don't want that. But we want him to be able to utilize this insight properly for the customer engagement. And in order to do that, we have to visualize this data in an easy way, in one-stop shop, one view that will be able to capture all the key data or all the key insight that will be required for the customer engagement. I think this is what we start to think about it and see what would be the different solution, either to be integrated in the CRM or outside of the CRM. But at the end of the day, we need to have the solution within the organization in order to facilitate the role for the sales rep for the customer engagement.
Yeah, and you don't want to share all the data with the field teams, I guess, right? You want to filter and make sure that you really share what makes sense for them. So it's not an easy task, I guess. It's going to be a journey as well, for sure.
Exactly, because you don't want to go into analysis paralysis mode where it's a wealth of data, and we probably we're serving different purposes and different benefits or different objectives with this data, right? Some of it might be used for segmentation and targeting. Some of it might be used to the rep just to inform what's next, right? Some of it might be used even just to inform the channel mix and understand some patterns that happen along the year. So that's why I'm asking, like, there are some organizations we work with that are like trying to get ahead and identify what KPIs are we going to measure, what does success look like, who is going to be using that, and some that are so overwhelmed and it's to some extent even for pure compliance reasons, so afraid of collecting the data that they just don't want to like do anything at all. And I touch on probably everyone's favorite topic, compliance and data privacy. Just curious about, like, how was it for you guys getting the legal side or the legal teams within your organizations supporting this journey with omnichannel? Like, any words of advice or anything, particularly, I mean, just consent management or more like the tactical things that the reps will have to deal with. Any thoughts on how we can help our colleagues or anyone in this omnichannel journey to overcome these sometimes challenging barriers?
Yeah, it's a big topic where you can say so much about. First, it's important to work with the legal and compliance team within your company to build the text. What do you want to capture when you capture consent? Basically, do you have one broad communication and one consent capturing all, or do you want to specify? So that's the first choice you need to make as an organization. At Advance, we made a broad one-fits-all capturing consent strategy. So that's important. And then you need to also need to have the right channels in place to capture consent. And we have discussed that with the countries. What is the best approach? And for the time being, our people can capture consent face to face, but also in a digital way. And you need to make that process as easy as possible, both for the sales rep as for the people that give their consent.
Yeah, from my side, I think the early engagement with the global compliance or legal is very important, and working globally, firstly, to get sign off or just endorsement from the global team, legal team or compliance global team. This facilitate this process on country level, because sometimes regulation is different from one country to another, so it need to be revisited on country level. But if it's approved globally at the time, the process on country level will be shorter or easier. So the main advice that we should engage with the global legal or global compliance as early as possible in any project or any initiative.
And how about channels that are not compliant that your reps are likely using? Like, just putting it out there.
Yes, I think we hear about that also quite often. So
just obviously, we don't need to acknowledge anyone doing anything they shouldn't. But we do know that the reps likely rely on the use of WhatsApp or SMS or things that are outside of the compliant way of engaging with an ACP. Like, curious about how are your organizations coping with that? Are you doing anything? What are the ways to, again, give the flexibility to the rep to build a relationship in the way that they think is best, but obviously trying to make that in the most compliant way?
Well, first of all, it's really difficult to control them, and I also don't know if we really want to control them. I think we need to have a little bit of faith and in them. So that's one thing. What we do today is the engagements they're doing outside of what we maybe know, is they have the possibility to capture that into CRM. If they have a phone call or they have an email, they send out an email from their Outlook or even Gmail, there is already a way for them to capture that into CRM, and we see that sales reps are pretty honest about it. So that's already a good thing. If you see then that there is a mismatch or a misalignment in sending emails and not having consent, I think you need to have that discussion with the sales rep. And often we see that it's just a matter of not having consent yet in place. And if you address that topic, maybe a few weeks later or a few months later, that consent is in place. So again, I would not go for full control and having an open conversation about it. Yeah.
Do you also do something, Andy, for the chat channel, instant messages, or anything you may do for that? Because we know it's a hot topic also for the whole industry.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. In all honesty, today we're not doing anything actively there, but we are investigating it if it's one of the options very soon. Definitely, yeah.
How about you, Mokhtar?
No, from my side, I think we should be sure that the team stay compliant, according to the global regulation and according to the country regulation. The most important thing, and we spend time and effort to get the physician consent in order to have these remote engagements, sending email, participating in webinar. So, and we reached to a high percentage of the physician had been consented. So I think this is what we focus on Sanofi, to get the consent from physician and to stay compliant for any engagement with the physician. Related to the CRM system, so we have different channels that already integrated in the CRM, and this is what we would like the team to use it, even in the remote engagement or in the face-to-face engagement or sending the email. So we advise the team to, and we recommend the team to use their emails through the CRM, and even use predefined content that had been already validated, and not to have these personalized content, because it might not be compliant. At the same time, for example, for the messages, and you have raised these points, Sebastian, we use some messages app, but till now it's used according to the country regulation, and mainly it's used by medical marketing campaign. It's not individual the individual message. Of course,
it's more at a campaign level, actually.
It's campaign level, yes.
Okay.
It could be used on individual level, just as, for example, reminder for webinar, just to remind the physician for webinar, but not for a promotional or commercial discussion. Might be in the future we find a way, and we believe that the messages is one of the channels that preferred by the physician. It might be more convenient, easily to interact, but still we facing this compliant perspective that we should consider. Might be at the future with the easiness of the regulation, will be one of the key channels that we rely on.
Yeah, and we will need to find a way altogether for sure. And I get your viewpoints here, both of you, Andy and Mokhtar. A bit different in the way you're engaging with these channels and how you want your field teams to do it. Makes total sense, because I guess we don't see yet today a real solid viewpoint for the whole industry. And that's something we will all need to work on together, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, to be 100% clear, of course, Advanced Pharma is and wants to be 100% compliance, and we are doing everything we can to do that. But coming back to that, especially when sales reps have really good relationships, I think you cannot avoid that there is sometimes an email going out from another email box, or a phone call happens. Again, it's all about transparency then, and to have that discussion with the sales rep. There are potential consequences of that, so you need to
and you want to have the discussion in that case, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of the reps trying to hide something because the rep feel that maybe he or she did something wrong. You have in your organization, I believe, this openness, this transparency to make sure that you have the right discussion. That's very good.
Absolutely. And another topic I also want to address around consent, and I knew it's a topic, it's really opening a little bit Pandora's box, but another topic around consent is also, once you have consent of a physician, is not to, and I hate the word, is not to misabuse it, meaning you're bombarding with communications, etc. So first of all, be selective. The frequency there is super important, and also such a thing as channel preference. I told you in the beginning, we are capturing broad for all communications, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to select all channels or you need to select all communications. Listen really well to your customer, Sometimes he gives your consent, but he's only interested in face-to-face or in maybe getting webinars or something or other invitations. So listen carefully to that and try to capture that. I think that's very crucial.
And two questions actually as a follow-up from that, Andy. And I'm conscious that, again, you have a slightly different setup because of rare diseases being small amount of physicians. So you have to give a bit more freedom to build that high quality relationship. But when it comes to consent, how often do you repeat that consent within advance? And also, how much do you connect the dots with other functions like market access, marketing, or if you have key account management in place? Just curious about how much of that helps you actually or benefits you to keep it within the sales remit, and the rep has control and kind of justify other parts of the organization reaching out, or how much do you share? It is because I guess there's pros and cons for both.
Yeah. So first thing, what is a frequency? We still are figuring that out. What is the ideal frequency to repeat consent? In the meantime, what is super important is with every communication you do is give them the freedom to opt out. So that's already super important. And then the second thing. Looking at consent, we're just starting to do this from a cross-functional point of view. That means if you launch a product, so pre-launch, medical teams or market access is already visiting those stakeholders, so they can already start capturing consent. So why not? I think it's in the benefit from the company, but also for the stakeholder at the longer term. So that's for us now a new approach we're doing. Yeah.
How about you, Mokhtar? Within Sanofi, do you share consent across different teams facing the same customer, or is it for now just more owned by different customers?
We share the consent between the different business units. So with, for example, vaccine, general medicine, specialty care, if it's a common customer, so it shared the e-consent, so we could benefit from the e-consent that collected by other business unit. Of course, it's shared with sales, marketing, and medical. And about the duration, I don't think that there is a specific timeline for this. It might be different on the country level, from country to country. But of course, as mentioned by Andy, so there is a option for opt-out if the physician feels that he doesn't want to continue receiving these messages or these emails.
I do have one more controversial question. Now looking into the future, right? And maybe if it helps, looking at other industries that are way more mature when it comes to digital engagement. We see other industries when it comes to addressing channel preferences and being more digital, even segmenting or grouping their customers based on the digital behaviors, right? But within pharma, we know that we're still very much looking at the adoption ladder, if the physician is new to a drug, if they're an advocate. So do you foresee that maybe, 5 years' time or even more, pharma would also move as the data points become available? Hopefully, Andy, to your point, as the teams work closer together, do we foresee pharma also moving towards a model like that, where we arrange our customer engagement based on digital behaviors? Or do you see that as it will never work for pharma because we're still obviously prescription based, and that should drive the business? Any thoughts from you both on that?
I think it will never shift from one direction to the other complete opposite one. And we have spoken already that the sales rep will remain in the driver's seat, or is today in the driver's seat. Will that be the sales rep in 5 years? We don't know, but somebody will still be in the driver's seat and take certain decisions. So that's for sure. I think analyzing the current digital behavior learns us a lot, but it's too early to tell how the future will look like, honestly, today. It's something to evaluate year after year. And maybe we will never be, there will never be maybe a way to overgeneralize things, because we already see now differences per specialty and those differences per country. So it's a good question, something to keep on analyzing, I would say. Mokhtar, I don't know what you think about this.
From my point of view, I see that we are moving to that. How it when it will we reach to that, it will be different from one organization to another, and even within the organization might be different from one country to another. So within Sanofi, we start for some business unit, some country to apply persona. And in persona, they already integrate the digital affinity or digital preference within the persona, and based on that, they could customize the customer engagement accordingly. We don't say that it's 100%, let's say 100% right or wrong for the time being, but at least we will start test and see if this is right or will need to be optimized. But at the end of the day, we need data. We need to work that and build this persona for different customer, for different segment, and also might be for different brand as well. And then moving from one brand to portfolio persona or something like that. So it will need time. But I see that we are moving to that. I see that the channel preference or digital affinity will be one of the elements that we should consider for the engagement with the physician. And it will be one of the key to optimize and personalize the customer engagement journey.
So this controversial question, you have a more controversial answer than we have today. But it's interesting to hear, and I'm curious at occasions we have, like for example the Viva Summit, where I have the chance to engage with a lot of friends from other companies. It's an interesting topic to discuss, maybe how other organizations look at this. Yeah.
And it's for sure, like stuff like the vaccines business is closer to a consumer dynamics, right, than what you're probably on the opposite extreme. But there's just a lot of different elements that need to be in place for that to be a reality. And I think on that note, conscious that we need to close at some point, otherwise we can be here forever.
Yeah.
It will be good, like, from you both, Boris said, but just also keen from the Viva side, if you have any extra thoughts to share. What words of advice do you have to anyone in this journey, trying again to make omnichannel a reality within your organizations? Like, what will be like your 2-3 tips that you would give?
Yeah. How can you start? What could be simple? Maybe the best tips you can provide to start in a simple way, maybe, or make sure you get the foundations right, I believe.
Andy, do you want to go first?
Any tips? Anything you want to share, maybe to finalize?
Maybe the biggest tip I can give today, but again, we are at the start of our journey, is to do go for maybe less channels and really bring quality in those than do it in the opposite way. So that would be my biggest advice today. And if you really look at what countries currently are doing, maybe look at one big ticket item and fully leverage that one instead of going for a lot of tactics and projects from a digital point of view. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. I think it makes total sense.
So, Mokhtar, what will be your 1-2 tips that you would have for someone just starting that omnichannel journey, or in that omnichannel journey, based on what you have experienced so far? What will be your advice?
Yeah, thank you, Vicky, for that. So if I may share some tips, or advices. So I will start with one advice for any organization to start from now. Whatever is the status, whatever is the maturity level for this organization, they should start. They should start from one point, and then they could assess their status, their maturity, and the capability, and build a plan for the future. They shouldn't wait till they will be very equipped with the different channel, equipped with the competency, and then decide how to move. But they should move from now, because I see that all the direction is moving to have this omni-channel engagement journey with the customer. So they should start from the time being. Another advice that they should not have all the plan in one go. So they should split the plan to different phases. So, for example, they should define exactly what will be the ultimate objective, or
what the final model that they would like to have, but they will not do this in one phase, but they should split it to different phases. So, for example, they move from their current phase to another intermediate phase for the engagement model. And then after might be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they move to the final phase. So it might be 2, 3 phases according to the maturity level. Might be it will be different from one country to another, but it will not be the entire journey in one go. So this is from my side, based on what we experience. They should focus on these 2 points, and they don't neglect the effort that will be required to achieve the journey.
That's a very good advice, Mokhtar, because there's quite a few like moving pieces. A lot of things are changing, right? Technology is getting better. We have more data. So keeping it phased, I think it's a really, really good advice.
Yeah, so I was wondering also, Andy, it's a lot of things, of course, to do and to change in your organization. One thing we haven't discussed yet is governance and the company governance overall. Because if you don't have the right governance model, I guess it can be very difficult to move the markets or even a region to go in the same direction than you. Is it something you worked on also internally? Did you change your governance model?
Yeah, it's not even changing our governance model. There was not a governance model on this behalf, so it's really funny. But so yes, it's something that is a hot topic in our organization, and it's something, a role that I try to pick up in our organization and build that governance to have that in place. Yeah, definitely.
So it sounds actually like a great opportunity for your organization to build the right governance model from the start, right?
Absolutely.
Very good.
Well, thank you so much, both. It has been a super interesting conversation and lovely to hear your thoughts and what you're doing within your respective organizations to like really help our reps, but also make the experience for physicians the best. I think it was a really lovely exchange. And also for me, big thank you for your time today. Seb, any final remarks from you?
I think that's it, Victoria. Thank you for all the time you spent with us, Andy and Mokhtar. And I think this podcast was very interesting to do with you. And I hope it will be also very interesting for all the people who will listen to it. Definitely, I think it will help a few pharma companies. Thank you, guys.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That concludes this episode of the Pharma Forum podcast. You can find more information about this episode, including a download link and information about other installments in the series at pharmaforum.com/podcast. The Pharma Forum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher, and Podme, where you can find and subscribe by searching for Pharma Forum. And don't forget to visit our website, where you can sign up for daily news and analysis bulletins, and to follow us on Twitter at PharmaForum. Thanks for listening.